Welcome to PlayPianoToday.com. This piano lesson is called slash chord modulations. In this lesson, we're going to look at some very unique slash chords. In previous lessons, we've used slash chords to transform very complicated chords into manageable, easy-to-play chords that sound fantastic on the keyboard. But today, we've got a brand new use for slash chords. You'll love this. We're going to use them as modulation chords. Now, modulation is a big word, kind of a scientific-sounding word, but it's an essential skill that you must have in your toolbox if you want to be a successful musician. Webster's defines modulation like this: a change from one musical key to another. For instance, changing from the key of C major to the key of A minor would be modulating. Here's the definition again: a change from one musical key to another. Any musician can simply jump from one key to another. However, in this lesson, I'm going to show you how to use slash chords to modulate or transition smoothly between keys. Not only will these slash chords enable you to move smoothly from key to key, but they're especially useful for keyboard players that play within a band. For instance, you can use them if you're playing within a band and all of a sudden you realize, uh-oh, there's another song coming up that's in a different key and we need to transition smoothly to it, and you haven't had a chance to tell the band yet. Or maybe you start a song out way too high and you've got to drop it down a key before the singer's head blows off. Something like that, where you need to be able to move to a different key smoothly, but you haven't talked to the band. Simply by playing these slash chord modulations, your entire band will know that you're going to move to a different key and you won't have to say a single word. This is a powerful technique, especially if you're ever playing with another group of musicians. So let's get to it. There's lots of study today. We're going to be looking at 3 specific techniques that will come in very handy in different situations that may require you to modulate on the fly. The first technique will be how to move up a half step, for instance, from A to B flat. The second will be how to move up a fourth, for instance, from D to G. And the last technique we'll look at will be how to move down a minor third, for instance, from C to A minor. Let's go ahead now and look at the first slash chord modulation, moving up a half step. In this example, we're going to go up a half step, or from one key to the very next key up. And by way of example, I'm going to go from A major to B flat major. Now, I mentioned this before, but if you're playing by yourself, there really is no conflict. You can go back and forth. You don't have to give any kind of a slash chord modulation to give anybody a heads up that you're going to move, because there really is no conflict. However, if you're playing with a singer or a band and they stay in A while you go to B flat, it's not very musical. You'll lose your job mighty quick. So let's look at how to use this slash chord modulation to go smoothly up a half step. Let me show you what the finished product sounds like up to speed, and then we'll slow it way down and look at it note for note in detail. But here I am playing along in the key of A. You're playing along in A. It's a good day to play in A. I'm playing my song in A. Uh-oh. I'm supposed to be in B flat. So I give a nice modulation chord and everybody can hear, hey, we're moving to B flat. Did you hear how smooth that was? Let me go back to A. I'm playing a lot of different things in A, but I'm in the key of A here. And I'm going to give you a nice modulation chord and get to B flat. Now, I was trying to give you a sense of the finished product there, so I played a lot of stuff all over the keyboard. But now let's break it down to the nitty-gritty, note-for-note version and look at it in detail. Doing a slash chord modulation from the key of A up a half step to B flat. Let's throw in that magic modulation chord. Here's A. Here's the magic modulation chord. And then all of a sudden, like a horse heading for the barn, the music has got to go to B flat, right? It has to. Listen to that. Once you hit that modulation chord and you're in the key of A, and everybody knows where we're going. We're going up a half step. Okay, so now I could just tell you what that magic modulation chord is, and you can see it there, but I want you to know how to find it. So let's start with the chord that we're modulating from, which is A. Okay, then we want to do that magic modulation and go to B flat. So when you're in A, you have to ask yourself,
because this is just an overview of this entire lesson, we're going to jump ahead now to the section where we're learning how to modulate not to the next note, but we're learning now to modulate or move to a distant key. Specifically, I'll show you how to use this technique to modulate up a fourth. This becomes really helpful if you're ever in a situation where you're putting together a set of different songs and you want to move smoothly between songs that are in distant keys.
This musical bag of tricks, so they turn and look at you and they're waiting for your next slash chord modulation. And you say, hey, okay, here it comes. I'm going to give you the secret modulation chord. And when they hear that, boy, that wants to go up a fourth to G. Did you hear that? Going from D to the secret modulation chord, which I'll show you in a second. And it wants to go up to here, right? It's really simple. It's so simple I can show you in about 30 seconds. Here's how it's done. When you're playing along in a particular key, again, for example, the key of D, and you want to come up with a nice fat slash chord modulation that'll kick it up to the key of G or up a fourth, guess what? You leave your left hand, just like the last example, you leave your left hand right where it is. That left hand and the bass player can just be nice and happy down there. But with your right hand, you simply play a chord a whole step lower. Okay, so a whole step lower from D, everybody knows, is C. So once you've run that real simple musical formula in your head, keep playing the D in your left hand and the C major chord with your right hand, that's it. Once to move now, everybody's going to push to G, right? Unless they're completely tone deaf. But if you're not playing with tone deaf musicians, this works really, really good, okay? Now you can also use the straddle technique that we did in previous lessons to make this sound cool, right? Remember the straddle technique? You simply leave out the middle note. Okay, so we're playing along a D, maybe straddling some of the notes, and we want to play that modulation chord, so we'll play a C chord, but we'll straddle it. And everybody moves to G. So if you need to go back and look at some of the previous slash chord lessons, again, go to playpianotoday.com and that'll get you hooked up. All right, on to the last technique in this lesson, modulating down a minor third. The slash chord modulation that kicks you down a minor third is very useful when you're putting together a set of songs and you want to go from one major key like C to a minor key that's a third lower like A minor.
This has just been a quick overview of this entire lesson, covering this essential skill that you've got to have as a working musician in any capacity, learning to modulate using slash chords. I hope this has been helpful to you. Check out the entire lesson, get this under your hands. My name is David Sprunger. Thanks for listening. Now you know what to do. Go practice.